The desert sun beat down on the endless stretch of broken land. Cracked earth, scattered rocks, and dry wind made this part of the Nevada wastelands feel like another planet. But to Jace Rennick, this was home. He had lived alone in the old solar station for nearly 5 years. Once a medic during Earth's final planetary war, Jace had chosen solitude over the chaos of the scattered human cities. He had seen enough pain, betrayal, and destruction. Now he preferred silence. The wind was quieter than people. That day started like any other. Jace was scavenging near the old highway ruins, searching for scrap metal and water filters. He carried a worn canvas pack on his back and a plasma rifle at his side, just in case. Wild creatures still roamed the desert, and some scavengers weren't friendly. Then the sky broke. A streak of fire blazed across the sky like a falling comet. It burned bright, orange and blue, trailing smoke as it crashed into the distant hills. The ground rumbled. A loud boom followed, echoing for miles. Jace's instincts kicked in. That wasn't a meteor. It moved too fast, too controlled. That was a ship, and it had just crashed. He stood still for a moment, staring toward the black smoke rising beyond the ridge. Then he took a deep breath, adjusted his pack, and started walking. He didn't know what he'd find. A rescue beacon? Scavengers? Maybe danger. But he couldn't ignore it. Someone, or something, might need help. It took him almost 2 hours to reach the crash site. As he climbed the final rocky slope, the ship came into view. It was sleek, silver, and not from Earth. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, even though it was torn and scorched from the crash. The back end was smashed into the hillside. Parts of it were still smoking. Jace moved carefully, rifle raised, scanning the wreck. No movement, no sound. Then he heard it, a weak, gasping breath. He turned sharply. Near the broken hatch, lying on the rocky ground, was a figure. Not human. The alien was small, maybe a little shorter than him. Her skin was a pale silver, smooth and glowing faintly in the sunlight. Strange, glowing blue lines ran along her, arms and neck like veins filled with light. She wore a torn dark blue suit with strange symbols across the chest. Blood, purple not red, stained the rocks beneath her. Jace lowered his rifle. She wasn't moving much. Her chest rose and fell with difficulty. Her eyes were closed, but her mouth moved slightly, trying to speak, maybe calling for help. "Hey," Jace said softly, approaching slowly. "I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't respond. Kneeling beside her, he pulled out a small medical scanner from his pack. He had no idea how her biology worked, but he could still check for basic signs. Heartbeat, oxygen, blood loss. The device blinked. Faint pulse, weak breathing, broken ribs, internal bleeding. She needed help, and fast. Jace looked back at the wrecked ship. It was completely destroyed. No way to call for help, no working tech, no supplies. If he left her here, she would die before nightfall. "I don't know what you are," Jace muttered, lifting her carefully into his arms, "but I'm not leaving you behind." Her body was lighter than he expected, like she didn't weigh much at all. Even so, carrying her over the rocky hills wasn't easy. His legs burned, his back ached, but he kept going. He could feel her weak breaths against his shoulder. That gave him a reason to push harder. By the time Jace returned to his outpost, the sun was setting. The sky was orange and gold, casting long shadows across the dry land. He laid the alien woman gently on his old medical table in the back room. The solar station had once been a science lab, so it had enough equipment left for emergency care. Jace sterilized the tools, activated the autoscanner, and began treating her injuries. Her blood reacted strangely to his tools. It shimmered when exposed to air and clotted fast. Her bones were stronger than human bones, but her organs seemed delicate. It was like she was built to survive space but not damage. For hours, Jace worked silently. He stitched wounds, sealed the rib cage, used a modified IV to deliver hydration. He didn't know if his work would help, but he had to try. Finally, When her breathing grew steady and her eyes stopped twitching, he leaned back, exhausted. "You're alive," he whispered. "Somehow." Night fell. The stars appeared in the sky, sharp and endless. Jace sat outside the station, watching the moons rise while sipping recycled water. His body ached. His mind raced. An alien, a real one, in his house. What did it mean? Was she a scout? A refugee? Part of an invasion? And more importantly, was she the only one? He couldn't sleep, so he kept watch. Every sound in the dark made him grip his rifle tighter. Hours later, he went back inside to check on her. She was still asleep, chest rising and falling calmly. Her face looked peaceful now, less tense. In the quiet light of the room, she didn't look like a threat. She looked lost, alone. Jace sighed. He knew what that felt like. He pulled a blanket over her and sat nearby, just in case she woke up confused or afraid. "I don't know who you are," he said softly, "but I think you need me right now." The wind outside howled through the broken hills. Inside, silence. And so began something Jace couldn't understand yet. He didn't know her name, didn't know her story, but he had saved her, and that would change everything. The next morning, the desert sun rose quietly, casting a golden light across the hills and dry plains. Jace Rennick had barely slept. He kept waking up to check on the alien woman resting on his medical table. She hadn't moved during the night, but her breathing had stayed steady. The strange blue glow on her skin had dimmed a little and her wounds were slowly healing. Somehow her body was repairing itself even faster than a human's would. Jace sat beside her with a notebook, scribbling thoughts. He wrote down everything he noticed, how her pulse worked, how her skin reacted to air, and how her blood changed color slightly depending on the light. He didn't know if anyone on Earth had ever seen a being like her before. He had so many questions, but for now, only one mattered. Would she wake up? By midday, she stirred. Jace was tightening a pipe near the water recycler when he heard a soft, weak sound. A gasp. He turned sharply. Her eyes were open. Bright, glowing silver eyes stared up at the ceiling. Her pupils were narrow and cat-like, but her expression was human enough, confused, afraid, and trying to understand. Jace stepped forward slowly. "You're awake," he said gently. "Can you hear me?" The woman blinked. Her lips moved, but no clear words came out. A soft hum came from her throat, followed by a language Jace had never heard, smooth, musical, and full of clicks and tones. He shook his head. "Sorry, I don't understand you." She turned her head toward him, wincing in pain. Her hand twitched and she tried to sit up, but Jace held out his hand. "Don't move. You're hurt." She stopped and looked at him closely. Her eyes scanned his face as if she were trying to read his mind. Jace had seen that look before, in wounded soldiers who didn't know if they were safe or in danger. "I helped you," he said slowly, touching his chest, then pointing to her. "I saved you. Do you understand?" She blinked again. Then, very slowly, she nodded. Relief swept over Jace. That simple nod meant they had started to understand each other, even if just a little. Over the next few days, Jace did everything he could to make her comfortable. He gave her water, carefully, prepared soft food, and checked her wounds twice a day. She remained quiet, but her strength grew quickly. Within 3 days, she could sit up and look around the room. Within a week, she was walking slowly with his help. Still, they didn't speak the same language, but actions didn't need translation. When he handed her food, she would place her hand over her heart and nod, a sign of thanks, he guessed. When he showed her how to use the wash basin, she gently touched his arm and gave him a soft smile. Jace began calling her Star, since he had no way of knowing her real name, and because she had come from the sky, she didn't seem to mind. One afternoon, Jace brought a tablet to her bedside. It was old but still working. He opened a simple drawing app and handed her the stylus. "Maybe you can show me something," he said. She looked at the screen, then at the pen, and after a few seconds she began to draw. First she drew a circle, probably a planet, then a triangle-shaped ship, then small symbols like letters. She pointed to the ship, then to herself. She touched her chest, then made a motion of crashing. Jace nodded. That was your ship. She drew again. This time, another ship, with sharp lines and angry-looking symbols. Then she drew the two ships fighting. He leaned closer. You were attacked? She nodded slowly, eyes serious. He felt a chill run down his back. She wasn't just a traveler. She was a survivor of something much bigger, maybe a war. Maybe she had enemies that might still be looking for her. He pointed to the drawing of the enemy ship and then made a questioning face. Still coming? She hesitated. Then she drew a line, her ship falling, then drew the enemy ship going. The other direction. Jace understood. They hadn't followed her. Not yet. That gave him time. As the days passed, their silent friendship grew stronger. Jace taught her a few English words. Water, sun, safe, friend. She learned fast, mimicking the sounds and gestures. One evening they sat outside on the roof of the outpost, watching the stars. The wind was calm. The desert was quiet. Jace handed her a cup of warm tea and smiled. I don't know what your world was like, he said softly, but I hope this place feels a little better now. Star looked at the stars above, then at him. She placed her hand over her heart, the way she always did to show thanks, and then said slowly, in a gentle voice, Safe. Jace was stunned. You said that on your own, he said. She nodded, her eyes glowing softly in the moonlight. Safe. Friend. He smiled. Yeah, that's right. That night Jace sat in his room staring at the old radio transmitter he had built years ago. It could send short signals to nearby colonies, but not beyond Earth. Should he report her? Tell someone? Let people know he had found an alien? He looked at the door, where Star was resting quietly in the next room. No, not yet. She wasn't a threat. She was lost, injured, and far from home. And right now he was the only person she trusted. He turned off the transmitter and closed his eyes. In the shadows beyond the hills, something stirred. Deep underground, in the crater where her ship had fallen, broken tech still blinked. A small scanner had powered on again. It sent a quiet pulse into the sky. A call. Jace didn't know it yet. Star didn't feel it yet, but something else had heard. And it was coming. The desert winds were quiet again. Days passed peacefully at Jace's outpost. Star grew stronger with each sunrise. She was walking without help now and learning more English words. Sometimes, she even laughed softly when Jace made a joke or told her about strange Earth things, like cats or sandwiches. But peace in the wastelands never lasted long. One night, as Jace was repairing an old solar panel, he noticed something strange on his scanner. It was a weak energy signal, flickering just once in the distance, then again, and again, like a heartbeat. He frowned. That signal wasn't human. He walked inside and checked his backup scanner. Same result. A quiet signal, pulsing every 5 minutes coming from the direction of the crashed ship. Star, he called gently. She looked up from the small plant she had been watering. Jace had taught her how to grow desert herbs. He pointed to the scanner. Something is sending a signal. From your ship, Star's smile faded. She walked over, looked at the screen, and placed her fingers on the blinking dot. Her face turned serious. She shook her head. Not good, she said. You didn't turn it on? Jace asked. She shook her head again. Auto. Beacon. Broken, but waking. Jace understood. Some part of her ship, maybe damaged but still active, had turned itself on again, and that meant someone might find it. Or worse, someone already had. That night, Jace set up sensors around the outpost. He added motion detectors and rigged a few warning flares just in case. Star helped him, her movements fast and skilled. She showed him a way to build a small sound trap using wires and a metal rod. When he asked where she learned it, she simply said war. Jace didn't ask more. He could see it in her eyes. She had been through things even worse than he had. They stayed alert for 2 days. Nothing happened. Then, on the third night, the alarms went off. A loud beep echoed in the workshop. Red lights blinked on the screen. Multiple things were moving near the edge of the valley. Jace grabbed his rifle. Star already had her energy blade in hand, a long handle that, when activated, glowed with a soft blue light. They moved to the rooftop, careful to stay low. Through the night goggles, Jace saw them, 3 tall figures walking slowly through the rocks. Not human. Their armor was dark gray with glowing red lines along the sides. Their helmets were sharp, almost like insect heads. They carried long weapons shaped like spears, but Jace could tell those were not simple tools. They were advanced. Hunters, Star whispered. You know them? Star nodded slowly. They follow survivors. No mercy. Jace's grip tightened on the rifle. He had fought soldiers before, but nothing like this. Still, he wasn't going to let anyone take her. Not after all they had been through. The intruders moved closer. One of them scanned the ground with a device. Another raised his weapon, pointing it toward the outpost as if sensing heat or life. Jace breathed deeply, steadying himself. He turned to Star. We make a stand here. I'm not leaving. You don't have to either. Star looked at him, eyes wide. No run, she asked. Jace shook his head. Not this time. She touched his shoulder. Together. The first shot came suddenly. A beam of red energy blasted a hole in the outer fence. Dirt and dust exploded into the air. Jace and Star ducked behind the sandbag wall they had built. They know where we are, Jace shouted. Ready, Star said, activating her blade. Tat-de-four. Second hunter moved around to the right side, creeping low. Jace fired a warning shot near him and the figure jumped back but didn't retreat. They're testing us, Jace muttered. They want to see what we can do. Star didn't wait. She dashed forward, moving like lightning across the sand. Her blade struck the first hunter's arm, cutting through armor like paper. The creature let out a sharp, high-pitched screech and dropped its weapon. Jace fired again, hitting the second one in the chest. It stumbled back, sparks flying from its armor. But the third one was smarter. It stayed hidden until it leaped from above, aiming right at Star. Look out. Jace yelled. Star turned just in time, raising her blade. The two crashed into the sand, struggling. Jace ran forward and aimed his rifle, but he didn't want to hit her by accident. Then, with a sudden twist, Star slammed her blade into the hunter's chest. The creature froze, then fell. Breathing hard, Star stood up, her arm bleeding slightly. Jace ran to her. You're hurt! Small cut, she said, smiling weakly. The battle was over. The hunters lay still in the dust, their weapons silent. Whatever mission they had come for, they failed. Jace dragged the bodies away and covered them. Under rocks, Star helped disable their armor and collected anything useful. A small energy core, a translation chip, and something that looked like a memory stone. Back at the outpost, Jace placed a bandage on her arm. You saved us, he said. She smiled. We saved together. They sat quietly for a moment, watching the sun rise over the mountains. The sky turned orange and gold, and the air was cool. Jace looked at her, wondering about all the things she had seen, all the things she had lost. You don't have to run anymore, he said softly. Star looked at him, then reached into her pocket. She pulled out the memory stone and placed it in his hand. You need to know. Jace looked at it. What is it? She touched the stone gently. A small image floated into the air, like a 3D hologram. It showed a planet. Blue skies, green forests, tall white towers, her home. Then it changed. The towers were burning, ships were fleeing, people were crying out. Then black ships, like the ones the hunters had used, filled the sky. They came. Took everything, she whispered. I ran. Jace felt a deep sadness. She hadn't just crashed. She had escaped a war, maybe even the end of her world. You're not alone anymore, he said. She looked at him for a long time. Then slowly, she placed her hand over his chest. Heart, she said. Safe. What they didn't know was that one of the hunters had managed to send a short message before it died. A single signal. Far away in the stars, someone received it. And they were coming. After the attack by the hunters, the desert outpost changed. Jace repaired the broken fence and buried the hunters' gear deep underground. He also hid the remaining pieces of Star's ship, just in case more enemies came looking. Every night, he checked the sky with his telescope, watching for any new lights that didn't belong. But even with danger all around, something warm had started to grow between him and Star. She was no longer just a guest, or a mystery, or a refugee from a far-off war. She had become family. Jace noticed small things first. Star had begun to smile more, and not just out of politeness. She smiled when she saw the desert flowers bloom. She smiled when Jace showed her an old music file he found on his tablet. And she laughed. Truly, laughed when he burned a pancake and tried to blame the frying pan. Sometimes they would sit quietly on the roof drinking warm tea as the stars came out. One night, as they watched the sky, Jace spoke softly. Do you ever miss your home? Star nodded, her expression calm but sad. Yes, I dream it sometimes. Forests, rivers, my mother's voice. Jace looked at her gently. You don't have to talk about it if it hurts. Star shook her head. It hurts, yes, but sharing helps. She looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. You are my home now. Jace felt his heart tighten. He didn't say anything. He just took her hand and held it. No more words were needed. Weeks passed. They worked together every day, fixing the water filters, planting new herbs, scanning for signals. The sky stayed quiet. No ships came, no new dangers. Jace found himself hoping it would stay that way. One morning, Star woke early and went outside without telling Jace. He found her kneeling in the sand, hands pressed to the earth. She was humming softly, a song perhaps, or a kind of prayer. What are you doing? He asked. She stood and smiled. I am planting hope. Jace raised an eyebrow. Hope? She pointed to a strange silver seed she had buried. My people, we plant this when we find peace. If it grows, it means the land accepts us. Jace nodded slowly. I like that. She took his hand. You helped me heal. Now I want to grow something here, with you. Jace felt something stir in his heart. Something deep, something lasting. Later that day, while repairing an old wind turbine, Jace heard Star calling his name. Her voice was urgent. He ran back to the outpost and found her holding a small round device. It was blinking. What is it? He asked. Message. From the stone, she said. She placed the memory stone on the table. A soft light appeared above it. This time, not a memory, but a recorded message. It showed a man with skin like hers, but older, with a mark on his forehead. Survivors, the message began in a deep voice. If you find this, know that you are not alone. We have found safety. We are building a new home on the third moon of Litra Prime. Come. The war is not over, but we have a future. Then the message ended. Star's hands trembled slightly. Others survived, she whispered. Jace smiled. That's good news. Star looked at him. I want to find them, but I also... She paused, confused. What is it? Jace asked. She placed her hand on her stomach. I feel different. Jace blinked. Are you okay? Star nodded slowly. Yes, but I believe I carry new life. Jace stared at her. You mean? She nodded. Our bond. It created life. He sat down slowly, trying to understand. Star touched his face gently. In my world, we do not need ceremonies or papers. We bond by choice, by heart. I chose you. Jace felt tears in his eyes. And I choose you. The next days were filled with wonder and quiet joy. Star's body changed, slightly glowing, slightly warmer. She said her kind carried new life gently and peacefully. There was no pain, only connection. Jace built a small new room in the outpost, filled with soft cushions and handmade lights. He wanted it to feel warm and safe. He wanted the child, their child, to have a place to grow, even if the world outside was still dangerous. Star helped him paint the walls with symbols from her world, curved lines that meant light, family, and future. But peace never lasted long. One afternoon, as Jace was setting up a new antenna, he caught something strange in the signal feed. A ship, large, not human, and heading toward Earth. Jace ran to Star. "We're not alone," he said. "Something's coming." Star looked at the data. Her face turned cold. "That is not rescue," she said. "That is war." They prepared the outpost once more. Jace sharpened every tool. Star upgraded their defenses using parts from the hunter weapons. They didn't know if they could win, but they would not run. "We protect this place," Jace said. "We protect each other." Star smiled, placing his hand on her stomach. "And we protect what is coming." That night a shadow passed over the moon. The war was returning. But this time, Jace and Star would face it together. Not as strangers from two worlds, but as family. The night sky was quiet, but Jace could feel something was wrong. A low hum filled the air. Soft at first, like a storm far away. But it grew louder every hour. Star stood beside him on the roof, one hand gently resting on her stomach. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "They are coming," she said. Jace nodded. "I saw the ship on the scanner. It's big. Bigger than the hunter craft." Star touched the edge of the railing. "This is no scout. This is a destroyer." He looked at her, concern written all over his face. "Then we leave. We can take the crawler and head for the mountains." She shook her head. "They will track us. And if they find others, more survivors, they will destroy them too." Jace understood. Running wasn't an option. They had to make a stand. Not just for themselves, not just for their child, for the future. The next morning, they began preparing the outpost for what might be the final battle. Jace installed the last energy cores Star had recovered from the hunters. With her help, they powered an old defense turret that hadn't worked in years. Star rewired the circuits using tools from her own world. The turret now glowed blue instead of red. They placed tripwire traps, dug hidden trenches, and turned the roof into a lookout post. Inside, Jace created a safe space beneath the floor, a hidden room in case Star needed to hide during the attack. But Star refused to hide. "My child will not grow in fear," she said. Jace looked at her and nodded. "Then we stand side by side." That night, the stars disappeared. A massive black ship blocked part of the sky as it descended slowly above the valley. Its engines were silent. No light, no signals, just a shadow that swallowed the moon. Then, with a loud pulse, it sent a message across the desert: "Return the escaped one, or be destroyed." Jace narrowed his eyes. "So polite," he muttered. Star stood beside him. "They do not understand love, only power." He picked up his rifle. "Then let's show them what real power looks like." As the first enemy soldiers landed near the ridge, the turret fired. A blue energy blast struck one of the invaders, knocking it back. Star moved fast, slashing with her glowing blade. She was faster now, stronger. Something had awakened in her. Jace covered her from the rooftop, aiming carefully and firing only when needed. The traps went off one by one, small explosions that slowed the enemy, but they kept coming. 10, 15, 20 black armored figures. "We can't hold them all off," Jace said, reloading. "Not like this," Star glanced up. Then, we must send a message before they shut us down. Inside the workshop, they placed the memory stone inside the antenna transmitter. Star spoke into it. To the survivors of Lume, to the humans of Earth, enemies have followed me here. But we will not fall quietly. We protect this place, our new home. If you hear this, know that hope lives. Jace flipped the switch. The message flew into the stars. Outside, the battle raged on. Smoke filled the sky. One side of the fence was gone. The turret was damaged, but still firing. Jace took a hit to his shoulder and fell behind cover. Star helped him up. You okay? She asked. He winced. Nothing, I can't walk off. Suddenly, the ground shook. From the destroyer above, a new threat emerged. Taller, stronger than the others. Its armor glowed dark purple. It carried a staff made of black crystal. Star's face went pale. That is a commander. The commander pointed its staff at Star. You are the last of your line, it said in a harsh voice. Come quietly, spare the man. Jace aimed his rifle. Not happening. The commander moved forward. Star stepped between it and Jace. You do not command me, she said firmly. The staff glowed, and a blast of energy shot toward her. But Star raised her hand, and something incredible happened. A shield of bright light formed in front of her. It pulsed with life. The blast hit the shield and vanished. The commander stumbled back in shock. Star looked down at her hand, glowing now. The child, she whispered. It is protecting us. Jace stared in awe. He's fighting with us, she smiled. Our child is strong. With new strength, Star moved forward, striking with her blade and blocking every attack. Jace pushed forward as well, firing at the invaders and clearing the path. The two fought together not just for survival but for a future. At last, Star reached the commander. You destroyed my home, she said quietly. The commander raised its staff again, but she was faster. With one powerful swing, she shattered the staff. The commander collapsed, its armor cracking. The remaining enemies paused as if confused. Then without a word, they began to retreat, called back to the ship. The destroyer lifted slowly into the air, silent and cold. Then it was gone. The sky cleared. The stars returned. Silence fell across the desert. Jace and Star stood quietly in the soft wind. The outpost was damaged but still standing. They had survived, together. Days later, a signal came through, a voice from the stars. We received your message, it said. We are survivors too, and we are coming. Jace smiled and looked at Star. She sat beside him, her hand resting gently on her stomach. He took her hand. Ready for a bigger family? He asked. She smiled. Always. In the months that followed, others arrived. Humans and aliens alike. Survivors, builders, dreamers. They helped rebuild the outpost, which became a small village. They named it Haven's Light, a place for peace. Place for new beginnings. And on one clear night under the stars that had once watched over a lonely desert, Star gave birth to a child. Half human, half Lumayan. A symbol of hope. A promise to the universe that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, love wins the end.